Hi everyone, I'm Jessica Black at It's Jessino on Twitter if you want to follow me there. And welcome to our first edition of WeShow League One, where we preview the 2021-2022 season. Thank you very much for joining us. And please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss another show. And this is the WeShow Football YouTube channel. So I'm here, and obviously I'm not an expert in League One at all in any way imaginable. I'm not. So but we have brought in an expert to talk to you guys about League One, and that's going to be Jerome Pugmire at Jerome Pugmire on Twitter. So let's see. Yep, go ahead and bring him in. Hey, Jerome, how are you?
Hi Jess, yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Good.
Good to be on the show. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for being here. So, can you let everybody know just a little bit about yourself? Like, how are you an expert in League One, and where are you from, and all that great and wonderful stuff?
Well, so I'm from England. I grew up in Reading and then moved to London, and then I was a freelance journalist in London for a few years, and then I joined the Associated Press in Paris as the chief sports writer in 2003, and I've been covering French football since then. So a lot of Champions League, PSG, Monaco, Lyon, the French national team, and other sports as well. But football's always been my main passion, and I followed the French league way before I moved to France. I mean, I was reading France Football magazine whenever I could get it in England. When I was like 17, 18. So always had a passion for European leagues and a penchant for the French league. Yeah, because of the French national team with Platini, Zidane. Always had a soft spot for the French national team and for the league itself. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, I mean, I've never really watched the league per se, but being an Arsenal fan, you tend to have a small affinity for French players and
Quite a few
French football.
players. Yeah.
Yeah, quite a few players. So I hear you on that. But let's kind of talk about what happened last season. I think
Yeah.
League One last season, it was shaken up just a little bit, wasn't it? Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, it was a fantastic season, one of the most exciting seasons for a long time. And it was Lille's first title for 10 years, which is actually when QSI took over, the Qatari investors took over PSG and then started dominating the league. The league opened in surprising fashion because PSG lost the first two games and they almost lost the third, which was at home to Metz, and they needed like a last-minute winner, I think, from Julian Draxler to win that game, let alone draw it. And from there, they kind of lost momentum, but people still didn't really believe Lille were going to do it. But Lille were not losing games. It got to 6-7 games until the end of the season where people were thinking, "Hang on a minute, Lille's still there, and Monaco creeping up, and Lyon aren't out of it." And what it was the high percentage of defeats. And PSG lost 8 games, which I think is the highest since QSI took over. That's a lot of games to lose, and Lille only lost 3, and they had the most clean sheets, and they conceded the less goals. So their team was built around a rock solid defence, but that's unfair on the rest of the team because they had a very, very good forward line. They made a great signing in Burak Yilmaz, the 35-year-old, which they signed from the Turkish league, and they built the attack around him, and he got 16 league goals. And they had very quick players around him and a very solid midfield, and a very, very good coach in Christophe Galtier, who won Coach of the Year for the 3rd time, which is some achievement actually. So that was how it panned out. It went down to the last day, and Lille won. Lille won away and caused one of the biggest upsets.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who watches football knows about that upset because even if you don't watch that league, you were hearing that PSG was not winning the league and Lille was doing a really good job, and I think it's almost unfair to say PSG dropped it. Lille had to have done something special, like you said, and they are a really good team. But just talking a little bit about PSG, how much pressure is Pochettino under now, this coming up in this next season? I mean, you would think by the amount of players that they're bringing in that there's some pressure there.
It's a very good question. A lot of pressure because he took over halfway through last season after they fired Thomas Tuchel, who went on to win the Champions League with Chelsea, somewhat ironically. But he's under a lot of pressure because last season, even though he came in midway through, he still had by far the best team in the league at his disposal. Players who are settled have been playing with each other for many, many years. So, there's mitigating circumstances. Okay, he did take over halfway through, but he didn't take over a team that was, in fifth place. He took over the biggest team, the most powerful team in France. So it's mitigating circumstances. But this season, the players they've signed, Donnarumma, Sergio Ramos, Hakimi, Wijnaldum, these are good signings that will strengthen the team. So they're big favourites heading into the season, but they were last season as well. And when you reflect on what happened last season, as you said at the beginning, the one thing that stood out for me was PSG's record against the other teams in the top four was awful. They lost home and away to Monaco. They drew away and lost at home to Lille without scoring. The only side they beat was Lyon. And they beat Lyon, lost to Lyon. So they had the worst record of the top four against each other, which I think summed it up really.
Wow, when you name, the players that they already have, you wouldn't think that. And then with the players that they're adding, it has to repair whatever is wrong within that squad that's preventing them from getting it over the line. But there's somebody else that, has come into the fold or come into the stratosphere, when you start talking about PSG, and that's Messi and the potential opportunity for PSG to bring in somebody of his quality. We've already talked about Ramos, Donnarumma. Those are players, but when we start talking about Messi, we're talking about the greatest player ever. So for you, when you hear those rumors, is it feasible? Is it something that you can see materializing, or is it just, do you expect Messi to just kind of stay at Barcelona?
It's a very good question. I would say there is a chance that it can happen. I think PSG want to make it happen. If they can, is a different matter, which we can discuss afterwards because of the salaries and Mbappe's new contract. And also what will happen in Spain, whether the league, Barcelona can work something out with the league whereby Messi will stay, because I think he wants to stay more than he wants to join PSG. But if not, I think he would be open to joining PSG. Then we get on to can PSG actually afford him if they keep Mbappe? Because, without Mbappe's new contract, the wage bill alone, just for those three players per season, would be more than 100 million euros. That's just those three. Financial fair play and everything else. It's just, at the moment, I can't see that happening unless Mbappe goes.
Yeah. And there's obviously been some talk about him moving on, his contract situation. Nothing has really been sorted at the moment. I'm having a hard time imagining Messi in any kit other than the Barcelona kit at the moment, to be honest. But when you look at that front three there, that's obviously the stuff of dreams or the stuff of FIFA, if that's what you want to call it, but I do think that this is really interesting. But we also need to talk about Neymar. Neymar, obviously, I think you said before we got on air, or was it Messi wants to play with Neymar or the other way around? They want to play with each other.
It's more that Neymar wanted and probably still wants to be reunited with Messi, and PSG almost agreed to sell Neymar back to Barcelona 3 seasons ago. It fell through at the last minute. But Neymar actually said that he last season that his dream is to play with Messi again. So it's still there. I'm not sure it's that much the other way around, but they do get on very well. And I think Neymar, if he has a say, will just tell PSG just make this happen. But whether they can, as we discussed, is a different matter financially.
Of course, of course. And Neymar's it's he's an interesting one because he definitely is somebody who has world-class level talent, but I think he has maybe a hard time getting that out there on the pitch for people to see on a consistent basis. There's no question
Mm,
about the level of talent that he has. And maybe he needs somebody like a Messi on his side. Maybe Mbappe is not the right partner. We don't really know, but there's some other issues with Neymar, perceived issues. People are talking about his fitness. I know there's
mm,
pictures going around the internet of him kind of
yeah.
on vacation, not looking in the best shape. Is that something that you feel like PSG fans should be worried about going into this next season?
It's actually a question that was raised with Pochettino towards the end of last season, whether, and this was raised in a press conference, so it wasn't speculation like online, it was raised. Is there a concern about Neymar's lifestyle? Does he look after himself the right way? We can speculate, too many late night stuff like that. We don't know, but the question's clearly there, and as you said, the images that are circulating, they don't really discourage that kind of speculation. So he was probably in a better position when he was playing with Messi at Barcelona than he is now, because now there seems to be a little bit too much slack given, because he's such a star, and they really need him. So perhaps there's too much leeway given, I would say.
Yeah, you have to look at that and be just a little bit disappointed. I know that he played in the Copa and Brazil went all the way to the final, so you have to give him that
Mm,
time off, to recuperate, but you don't expect the fitness levels to drop,
no.
that much. And with PSG, as we've already kind of spoken about, under so much pressure, that has
Mm,
to be something that you look at and you're like, wow, maybe he isn't taking it as serious, but that's all speculation, and hopefully he's able to get back into shape. But now looking at Mbappe and his future, I find that when
mm,
big players, like even somebody like of a Messi stature, when they become available, other players' futures end up changing. There's a domino effect in the market where
oh
now
yeah.
other opportunities become open and available, right? So you look at
Hmm.
somebody like Mbappe, who's his contract situation's not sorted at PSG. He can leave on a free. He's been spoken about very highly as somebody that could potentially go to Real Madrid. How do
Hmm.
you make sense of his future? Where would you expect to see him at? Where's his next destination?
The thing is that the situation with Mbappe's contracts has been dragging on now for months, and he's made it clear that twice, actually, last season, that he's uncertain. So what he wanted was to see, first of all, what PSG were going to do to strengthen the squad, to become to build a team that can win the Champions League, not just once, but several times, like the great clubs do. But it's dragged on and on and on, and it's dragged on all summer. The situation is now that he's got 1 year left. There's interest from Real Madrid. I think there's also interest from Liverpool, who kind of need to galvanise their attack a little bit. The news of Messi coming in, I don't think it does wonders for his chances of signing a new contract, because a lot of the money that could have gone to his new contract, because he wants to be on the same money as Neymar, and Neymar will probably be on less than Messi. So then he'd still be number two, see what I mean? Because he wants to be equal. I don't think that's necessarily good news for PSG fans who want Mbappe to stay. I think it could have accelerate his move. But then do Real Madrid have any money? He's only got one season left, so he wouldn't be as much as you normally would. But
Yeah. When you look at the financial situation in La Liga, it doesn't look good for their ability to acquire a player of Mbappe. If they inevitably lose Messi, then how do you bring in Mbappe? How do you bring in a Haaland as well, who's also somebody who's been
mm,
spoken about that could potentially end up at Real Madrid or a team like that? So, and then, being a Premier League fan, you're kind of looking at this like there may be an opportunity where you see Haaland and Mbappe in the Premier League because of the issues that are
yeah.
happening in La Liga.
Well, Real Madrid, ironically, before this was happening, so ran it just after the Euro, were renegotiating. They'd just given Benzema a new deal and renegotiating another one. So, I mean, a lot of their money, they desperately want to keep Benzema. He's been fantastic. He was brilliant for them last season. And a couple of seasons prior to that, he was very, very good. But last season is absolutely superb. So they want to keep Benzema. So they're renegotiating his new deal. Probably not anticipating that Mbappe, I don't know if they anticipated that really Mbappe would come this season. Thing is with Mbappe is it's also tricky because he's from the Paris suburbs, so he's a Parisian, let's say, PSG fan. I don't think he wants to leave that club on a free transfer. I don't think he wants to do that to PSG because he'd be very badly perceived. He'd be seen as like just running down his contract and walking away somewhere else on bigger wages. I don't think he wants to do that. So it's tricky though, because could he sign a short-term deal and then they could sell him, at the end of next season for more than they could sell him this summer? Possibly, but then the Messi situation comes in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because you have to think about it from all perspectives. Like you said, I didn't even think about, just maybe his love for his club, being from Paris. Maybe that is something that would make him want to stay. But ultimately, if you bring in somebody like Messi, all of that is kind of yeah.
That's why I say it could accelerate it, because I don't think he wants to leave PSG on a free. I don't think if Messi comes, he's going to sign a new 2-3 year deal. So I reckon it could happen this summer. And if it's not Real Madrid, why not Liverpool?
Right.
He's spoken about Liverpool before. He's spoken about being, in awe of the atmosphere at Anfield. Could be. Why not?
Wow. I mean, the Premier League can be a very, very interesting place in the next couple of years, depending on what happens. But for now, he's at PSG, and we'll see what happens. But do you have any transfer rumors for us today?
So the two main ones. So the Marseille centre-back, Juje Keretasar, Croatia international, is heavily linked with a move to West Ham, who did brilliantly last season under David Moyes, way beyond expectations. I know some West Ham fans, way beyond expectations. And it's rumoured that that they're going to consider a bid of about 22 million euros for him, about 20 million pounds. And he's still fairly young. He's 24. He doesn't have great pace, but the rest of his game is very, very well suited to the Premier League in a similar way that Dejan Lovren's was when Liverpool signed him from Lyon. He stayed a long time at Liverpool, despite having a lot of critics in France. A similar situation with Keretasar, has a lot of critics. He's a little bit slow. He's sometimes too easy to turn, but he's strong. He's good in the air. He has attributes that are perfect for the Premier League. And Marseille would sell because they've been recruiting, and they'd sell definitely. So I think that could happen. The other one is the Lyon midfielder Houssem Aouar, who's 23. He's made a few appearances for the France team, but he wasn't in the squad for the Euro, so he needs to get back in the reckoning for that. So this could be a good time for him to leave Lyon. Arsenal had bids knocked back from about 40 to 45 million start of last season. He's a lot less than that now. They could get him for about 20-25 million. So depends whether Lyon wants to sell, because they've lost Memphis Depay to Barcelona. But the new coach who came in, Peter Bosz, basically said, in football, it's a cliche, he said, but in football, you just never know. Like, someone could say they're going to stay and then they'll leave. So I think he's opening the door for that departure. So I think those two could go through.
It's so interesting. Well, being an Arsenal fan, I had a front row seat to the Aouar roller coaster last summer. And it felt as though that it was quite close, because I thought when they recruited Paqueta, that meant that Aouar was potentially available. So it's going to be interesting to see where he goes. I think he's an amazing player, to be honest.
Very good player,
he's very good. Underlying metrics are, but he has another level to go. He's not even where he's
definitely,
going to end
definitely.
up, so it's interesting. I would love to see him at Arsenal, but, we don't really like to get our hopes up too much, so, but
Well,
those are interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
When you get Pep Guardiola in a press conference singing your praises when you're 21, which is what happened when Lyon went to Man City and won, and it was him and Tanguy and Ndombele in midfield, and Guardiola doesn't need to sing their praises. He mentioned both of them, but he said, like, the level that they're playing at that age is it's a superb level, and it's obviously the Lyon Academy has produced so many players of that highest ability, like Benzema and him. So yeah, I think he'd be brilliant for Arsenal if they could bring him in.
Yeah, for sure. It's gonna be interesting to see where he ends up, but let's do some predictions. Let's predict some what's gonna happen in this next season coming up. So let's start off with who you think is going to win the league this season.
Well, I'm not going to be very original here. PSG.
And why do you think that that they're gonna win it this year? What do they have? What have they done in the off season to make you think that?
So the areas where they were lacking last season, which contributed to them losing the league, were lack of discipline, too many red cards. So that's an area where that comes and goes. But anyway, I'm not sure that you can fix that. But another one was fitness and midfield. So in the second half of games, you saw against Man City, against Barcelona at home, against Bayern Munich at home, after about 65 minutes, the level went, fitness just went down. Verratti is a fantastic midfield schemer, great pass to the ball, hardly loses the ball. But if you're making him do defensive duties, after 60 minutes, he's gone. So they brought in Wijnaldum on a free, which I think will help the midfield a lot, take a lot of pressure off Verratti, especially defending. And they brought in Ramos. Now, I'm not saying Ramos is better than Kimpembe, but I think Ramos's arrival will make Kimpembe a better player than he was last season. Got 2 red cards. He was inconsistent, made too many mistakes. So I think Pochettino wants to really ramp up the competition for places, because he sensed last season there's too much complacency. And that's also the reason why they were losing games that basically they shouldn't have lost. I mean, there's a game away to Lorient, who were at the time before the kickoff 19th. And PSG lined up with Mbappe, Neymar, Icardi, and Di Maria, which is 560 million euros worth of attack, and lost 3-2 because they conceded 2 goals in the last 10 minutes, because basically they just switched off. So I think competition for places will improve the mentality within the squad, and there'll be less complacency. Wijnaldum's arrival will increase, will improve the midfield. And then you've got the best goalkeeper at Euro 2020, Donnarumma.
So for you,
yeah.
I was just going to ask you a question. So when you say Ramos is going to make Kimpembe a better player, do you foresee them playing together?
Well,
and then Marquinhos, where does he go?
Well, what I mean is that if Ramos is picked with Marquinhos early on, Kimpembe is going to have to get back in the team.
So when he does have to work hard for his place.
Yes. So when he does play, you can't make the mistakes he made last season. 2 red cards, and one against Leipzig. I think one against, if I recall correctly, it was against Rennes. Both, avoidable red cards, because some of the red cards you can't really help it, but these were like, they were careless. So I think the message is sent. Your status is not what you thought it was, throughout the team. Whether that applies to Mbappe and Neymar remains to be seen, because they always seem to have a status apart. And at PSG, the elite, or the elite players there. So even when Ibrahimovic was there, he was allowed to go back to Sweden, go hunting for a couple of days. But when Cavani came back late from duty with Uruguay, he got fined. So it's difficult for Pochettino because he wants to send this message, but can he apply it to absolutely everybody? Because they want Mbappe to stay. They wanted Neymar to stay. He finally signed a new contract. But I think for them to take the next step in the Champions League, that mentality has to run throughout the whole team. There can't be any more exceptions made for anybody, regardless of status. And I think that's what Pochettino wants to hammer home. And the strength of those recruitments. I mean, Donnarumma and the right back from Inter Milan. I mean, PSG can be a very, very difficult side to beat if they eradicate the mistakes they made last season, which I think they will.
It's so interesting now, because now that you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, does Pochettino have I don't want to say the status, but does he have that personality to be able to rein in personalities like that, like a Neymar, like an Mbappe, these superstars that, I mean, if Tuchel had some issues, then does Pochettino have that? Because I mean, at Tottenham, you did have some star quality, but not to that level. So I'm wondering if maybe the job is just a little bit more difficult for him because maybe he doesn't have a personality of a Pep or a Klopp to really get these star players going and to buy into a team mentality.
See, that's the thing, is that people like Mourinho, they come in. They've got that aura, they've got that clout. Ancelotti, more low-key, but he's got that clout. Pochettino hasn't really won anything. I mean, he won the French Cup. He reached the Champions League final. He lost, I think, the League Cup final. So he's coming in, and Tuchel didn't have much, clout in that sense either when he came in, and it led to frictions with some players. And Tuchel kind of, it got to him, and then he said a few things about the club that didn't go down well, and they fired him, and they brought in Pochettino as a kind of a little bit more. It's not to be critical of Tuchel because that's the way he is, but a little bit more of a Zen, personality. But it didn't win in the league, did it?
Right.
So I don't think he did enough to get that message across, and I think he needs to set an example with Neymar, because if he does come back, as we've seen the images that we circulating, if he does come back unfit, he cannot say, "Oh well, he's on holiday." He's got to say it's not good enough. He's got to send that message. Start the season, not good enough.
I agree with you 100%. So let's continue on with our predictions. We're supposed to predict your top three and then your bottom three. So I guess.
Okay.
I guess Tom wanted you to do three more. I think he wanted to do top four.
Well, my second place, I'm going to go for Monaco, because for me, they were the most impressive side at the end of last season. They went on more than a 20-game unbeaten run. Niko Kovac did a fine job reshaping that team, stabilizing it, and then getting them to be very, very competitive. And they got to an outside chance of winning the league at one point, but then they fell away right at the end. The players they've got, Ben Yedder and Volland, that their first season up front together, they scored more than about 35 goals between them in the league. That was their first season. Alexander Golovin, who was Russia's World Cup star in 2018, came back from injury last season, and he had the highest percentage of assists in the whole league. And he looked at it; it was actually considerably higher than Angel Di Maria, who's an absolutely superb passer. So if Golovin stays fit, those two forwards, they've got a very good defence. One of the players we'll talk about later on, Badiashile. They're a stable club. They've got a very good manager. I'll put them seconds. I'll put Marseille third. Those are the top three. Marseille, because Sampaoli came in last season, absolutely metamorphosized that club, which was in free fall. He's been given funds. He's strengthened The squad, Dimitri Payet, by all accounts, is back in form pre-season. They lost Florian Thauvin, who was a goal-scoring winger, but they kept Milik, Arkadiusz Milik, the Poland striker. I think over a whole season, he'll get the goals that will get him in the playoff place for the Champions League. So that's the top three. Bottom three.
Yep.
Well, I'm not going to go order because those relegation battles are just too fluctuating.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately for our dear friends from Clermont and Troyes who got promoted, I'm relegating them straight back down.
Oh, okay.
Along with a surprise pick, which is going to be Angers.
Oh, why do you say that?
Well, Angers, a small club, built around a great coach, Stéphane Moulin, who was there for 10 years, it's difficult to describe the good job he did. It was so good. I mean, he made that club a mid-table team that played decent attacking football. As soon as he announced he was leaving before the end of last season, that he was leaving at the end of the season, they just kind of, the results started going all over the place. So they've got a new coach coming in who's got no experience. Gérard Baticle used to be a striker with Auxerre. He's got no experience at the top flight. Neither has the Troy coach, Laurent Batles. He has a coaching experience, but not in the top flight. I don't think Clermont's got enough to stay up. So those are my three to go down.
So it hasn't gone unnoticed that Lille and Lyon are not in your top three. They haven't done enough for you to make it into those Champions League spots?
No. Sad to say for Lille, they lost the coach. Gautier went to Nice. They lost for me, and this is some compliment. For me, the best goalkeeper in the league last season, Mike Mignon, put him even above Keylor Navas. Went to AC Milan. Samari, the centre mid, gone to Leicester.
Leicester. Mm-hmm.
They've just sold this afternoon. They just announced. I mean, Araujo, not a top player, but he's gone to Atlanta, in the MLS. Too many departures, really. I can't see them holding. They did beat PSG in the Champions Trophy 1-0, so they've still got a good defence. There's a third game in a row without conceding against PSG, but let's not. Let's be honest. PSG didn't have Mbappe, Neymar, or Di Maria in that game, so it wasn't a full. It was a good PSG team. It wasn't full strength PSG. Lyon, I think losing Depay, they've got a massive injury list already. Got a new coach coming in who needs to get his method going. That could take time. Peter Bosz was actually fired by Leverkusen midway through last season in March. So, he's got to establish trust. The players have got to look at him and think, well, do we like the way he's playing? By all accounts, they do like his style of play, but players always say that at the start of the season because they want to get in the team, don't they? So,
good point. Yeah, that's interesting. I jotted down mine really quickly, and I had Marseille up there. I think they've done a lot of business, and they did bring in Saliba and Guendouzi, two players that I know quite well.
Guendouzi, yeah, I was going to say very good signing, very good signing for them.
Singes Under, who I think just needs some consistency, and Gerson, who I love coming from the Brazilian league. So it's going to be interesting. I think they're going to be formidable, really. But let's talk young players to watch. Yeah. So who's your first young player to watch?
So one of the players who really impressed me last season was Amine Gouiri, 21-year-old forward, plays for Nice. Nice weren't very consistent last season. They had problems with coaching. They weren't, particularly good in attack, and then they were an inconsistent side. But one player who really stood out in that team for me was Gouiri, who, when he was in Lyon, so another one who came through the Lyon academy, but when he was 18, he's 21 now. So when he was 18 in the summer of So it was August 2010. In training, he ruptured his knee ligaments. At that age, very difficult because you're trying to break into the team. It's highly rated. Everyone's saying, "Oh, he's the new Benzema," which they said about several players coming through Lyon. But he was regarded as the real deal. So it took him a while to get over that. But last season, in a team that wasn't particularly good, he got 16 goals in 39 games. And that's not playing as a centre forward. And for me, that's a very, very good sign. The good thing about him is he's a versatile forward. So he'll play off Kasper Dolberg, the Denmark striker, which for me is a very, very promising partnership. Could get him in the top 6. But he's a striker who plays off. So he can come in, he's cutting off the left wing. And what he does is a little bit like Thierry Henry, I'm not putting him at the same level, obviously. But he cuts in from the left and he does that lovely curler. That's one of his tricks. He's very, very good at that. And I think this season, with Gautier as coach, needs to be more consistent. I think they'll be pushing top 6, top 5. And a partnership with Kasper Dolberg, I think, could be one of the best in the league. So I think definitely keep an eye on Guiri.
He's honestly, this is a player I've actually never heard of. So, and I love watching young players grow and this is a really good.
He's very, very skillful as well. Very good feet.
I'm interested to watch him play. I'm gonna get right onto YouTube and look up some clips because he sounds exciting. But who's next?
So the next one I will go for is Ryan Cherki.
Another one from the Lyon Academy. Right. This is what do they have in this academy? Who's there creating these little stars? It's amazing.
If you've got 7 hours, and I'll go through it. They have got, well, just to summarise, one of the top five academies in Europe, along with Barcelona and actually Rennes, in terms of producing the most amount of players who go on to play in the top flight in the top 5 leagues. Top 5 leagues, Lyon right up there. Cherki, first time I saw him play was in a cup game in March. I was like, is this guy's not 17? Can't be. He's 2 goals, an assist, a chip from the halfway line, which the goal he saved, one of the, people say David Beckham because when he did it for Man U, but it was one of those, and the goal he had to back pedal and tipped it and just saved it. You think he's 17? He's ran midfield. It's just sensational. And the skill, finishing, he's a really good finisher for a midfielder. He finishes I wouldn't say as a forward, but he's in that category of he'll be one of those high scoring midfielders. And because there's a lot of injuries and because, Lyon need to keep him, because otherwise someone will, snap him up. I think he'll be a more prominent fixture inside the season, particularly if they sell Houssem Aouar. So keep an eye on him.
Yeah, this is a player I have seen, and I was shocked, just like you, when I was looking him up, and I was like, "Wow, you're 17."
Nice.
He's so good. He's so good, and he stands
ridiculously
out.
Good.
Yeah, and because they have so many good players that come out of their academy, but he definitely stands out for me, and I think he has a really, really bright future. I see him in the Premier League at some point, or maybe even, at even a bigger side, like maybe a Barcelona or something.
Oh yeah.
He can play at that level.
Just to add on that, on Lyon's academy, they've got 12 outposts around the area. 12. So they've got regional scouts in 12 places, getting all the players from the Lyon region to come to Lyon. That's how strong that academy is. I mean, Monaco's is really strong. Monaco's uses more South America, but I mean, Lyon's is sensational academy. Yeah,
it definitely shows on the pitch as well. But who's next? Who else you have?
So, for me, really impressive in defence last season was Benoit Badiashile. I say that Kovac got that team more consistent. He started at the back, and Badiashile was only 20. He's already in his 3rd season. And he came through a very, very difficult season when Monaco almost got relegated. It was the season they fired Leonardo Jardim, they hired Thierry Henry, they fired Thierry Henry, and they hired Leonardo Jardim. Then they fired Leonardo Jardim again. He's got a nice compensation package there. And they brought in, so they changed the manager. Another one, a Moreno, I think, then they fired Moreno and they brought in Kovac. But so he came through all those choppy waters, so to speak. And now he's a really, really assured centre-back. He's about 6'4", good in the air, but he's a really good passer out from the back. And he's pushing for the under-21s. He's pushing to get in the under-21s, which you'll get into this season. And then, they're often doesn't take long before they're in the reckoning for the national team. So I think putting Monaco second, I think if he stays fit all season, I think Monaco will finish second.
Yeah, he's somebody that I have heard of, but just a little bit, because he was linked with Manchester United last summer. So I was trying to look him up to see what he was all about. And I was like, wow, he's only 20 years old. But when you're linked with a team of the status of Manchester United, you have to be good. Where would you rank him? So go ahead.
No, I was going to say Man United, they're a club that does a lot of research when they go for centre halves. They'll look very, very thoroughly at that player. Yeah. So, what were you going to ask?
I was going to ask you, where do you rank him, in terms of? I mean, he's French, correct? So there's so many good French center backs. You have Upamecano, Konate, Saliba. Wesley Fofana, who the tackle that was horrible. But where do you kind of rank him? Do you think that he has that type of trajectory where he could kind of hop, skip, and jump some of those other names that we already kind of know of in that French position?
It's a very good question, because there's also Saliba went to Arsenal and then got loans back. I think the best thing for him to do is not to do that. I think the best thing for him to do is to stay at Monaco this season, probably next season, and then take his pick of the best European clubs when he's 23. So I wouldn't put him in that category yet, but I would say he's a player who could soon be in that category. He's definitely got everything. With the attributes.
I agree. I mean, physically, he's already there. He just probably needs some more experience, and he'll get that, no doubt. But the last player to watch that I know we're going to talk about is somebody who was extremely impressive in the Euros for me, and just even short cameo. Jeremy Doku. Tell me about him.
So they got him from Anderlecht, age 18, and they paid 26 million euros. That says how much they rated him as a player. And Rennes are not a rich club, so they've got a rich owner, very, 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 very rich owner, but they're not a cash splashing club, so to speak. To bring in a player of 26 million at the age of 18, you've got to be very sure of yourselves. And this is a club which also has a great academy, so they don't necessarily need to bring someone in like that. This is a nice little symmetry here. He cost 26 million, but he took 26 games to score. So he scored in his 26th game for Rennes. And you could see it took a massive weight off his shoulders. And I think it contributed he got a couple of goals, and it contributed to his performances at the Euro. I see someone mention Camavinga. Camavinga obviously was already known about because he burst onto the scene a couple of seasons ago. But he could be crucial to Doku this season, because if Camavinga gets his form back, I think Doku could have a great season. He could get to double figures.
Yeah, the speed, the physicality, the skills. I mean, he has it all. He's so impressive. So I'm very interested to see how he develops, in the next couple of years, because he's scary, isn't he? I mean, if I was a defender, I wouldn't want to see him running towards me.
I don't necessarily want to defend against him. I think I'd be ill that day. I'll go off at half time or after 5 minutes. No, but the thing is that the interesting about Rennes is that they've got the coach, I think, is good for him and is good for Camavinga. Bruno Genesio, who was Lyon's coach. And he always seems to bring he manages to find a nice brand of attractive football. And I think the last the last Rennes coach, Julien Stéphan, was very good, but then it got to a point where he was at odds with the leadership of the club. So he had to go, or he chose to go. But I think Genesio is a very good choice for Rennes, and I think they'll be a very entertaining side to watch this season. They have sold their best centre half, so I'm not sure how good they'll be in defence. But I think be an entertaining side to watch with Doku and Camavinga. Definitely tune in to watch them.
I will be tuning in. This conversation has just made me think like, yes, I definitely need to be watching more of League One. I've never really gotten into it, but now, I mean, so much good young talent, a storyline with PSG, and other teams feeling like they can actually win the league now.
It's such a great league for, the talent pool is enormous. And people say, oh, it's the French league, but that's not how to view the French league. The French league, for many years, unfortunately, clubs were too negative when they played away from home. They played for draws, but they did that in Italy, and no one they were critical of that. But the French league has started to open up a bit in terms of playing style. And it's the league, it's a conveyor belt of talent. Where else would you want to tune into to watch all these young players coming through? South America, okay, yeah, but with the time difference, you're not going to watch News Old Boys every weekend, are you? So better off watching the French league, which is 1 hour difference. So it's all these players coming through, and because they're a selling league. By the time you're 21, or Badger Shield 20, you've played 3 seasons because they sell players, so they have to bring players through, and the academies are so good. Players that come through, they get a chance to play because they're so good as well. They're kind of ready, so they get a chance. So by the time they're 20, 21, 22, they leave, and then when they go in the Premier League, some Premier League fans go, "Oh, this player's amazing." Well, yes. They say, "Oh, the French league's boring." No.
Just got to give it a chance, don't you?
Yeah, this is the league that produces. This is the league that produces these players. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I'm definitely going to be tuning in, but I think we're going to end it there. And hopefully everybody that's watched, if you aren't watching League One, tune in this season and see what happens. But that's it for me. I'm Jessica. You can find me on Twitter at It's Jessinho. And thank you so much, Jerome. You can find Jerome thank you so much, at Jerome Pugmire. Thank you to everyone joining us today. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel. This is the WeShow Football YouTube channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss another episode. We'll see you next week for more of the season previews of Europe's top 5 leagues. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.